and welcome to Fun with Clay, a series where I'm going to give you tips on how to personalize your polymer clay creations. Today we will be making a Valentine-themed peacock necklace, starting with the heart cane. To make the heart cane, we will be using a technique that is sometimes called a cookie cutter cane, and you'll be starting out with some circular slabs of clay and pressing the shape into them with a shaping tool, and then gently but firmly pressing it out with your tool of choice. I am using a large dotting tool here, but you can use something else like a wooden dowel, for example. You are going to need at least two colors to work with, one for the shape and the other for the background color. You can see that I have three, but for the sake of example, I'm going to be showing you what it looks like with just one set. I'm going to set those aside and work with the pink outline and the red heart. What you're going to need to do is cut into your shape wherever is most comfortable for you, and then wrap it around the cutout shape so that they fit snugly. And then you're going to press around the shape using firm pressure, but not so much as to dent it out of shape, and slowly go around the shape until you get enough to be able to roll it on your work surface. At this point in the process, I'm also going to be adding another layer of color to make the design pop, and I'm going to be using white for this purpose. Make it fit as snug as you can and trim the edges. Once you have finished trimming, then you're going to want to press and roll the shape once again. Making sure to check the shape every once in a while so that you're not distorting the heart too much. There will be a bit of distortion on the ends, but as long as you're careful, it should preserve the shape throughout. At this stage, I'm going to cut a small portion off the end so that you can see the heart shape. And when I cut a small section off here, you'll see that it has squashed the shape slightly. This is because it is a fresh cane, and when you've just made it, it's going to be a little soft. But at that point, this is fine because it's still early in the process and the cane will be reduced further. Moving on, I'm going to show you what you can do if your cut ends up being uneven and too close to the edge. You can take a roll of the same color as the background and add it to make a thicker border. And follow the same process as before, where you want to fit it snugly and trim the excess. You can add as many layers as you like, whether you'd like to use the same color or layers of different colors, depending on the type of aesthetic you want to go for in your design. Now I'm going to be showing you the difference between cutting a cane that has been refrigerated, here in red, and a fresh cane in pink. I'm going to start with the red cane, and I'm going to cut a small portion of it, and you can see that the shape has been preserved fairly well. Now I'm going to be using the fresh cane, and there is a bit more distortion in the shape. Put simply, placing your fresh cane into the refrigerator for around an hour will make it easier to cut. Once you have the canes you'd like to use prepared, it's time to begin on the peacock. I'm going to be using a piece of parchment paper to place it on so that it's easier to peel it off of the work surface. Take your ball of clay and press it flat, and then decide which side you'd like to use as your front and place that face down. And then you're going to take a rolling tool and slowly and gently press it into a wide oval shape. Once your shape is the desired size, peel it from the parchment paper and start shaping the bottom into a very gentle point. And then you're going to take a needle tool or similar shaping tool and define the edges of the tail feathers. Once you're finished, you're going to gently score a line down from each of these places to define the feathers. You can make these as gently or deeply as you would like. Here you're going to see me defining the back to make sure that the shape goes all the way through. And what's left will be a seashell-like shape. At this point, I'm going to add a screw-eye pin into the top. If you aren't comfortable with doing this or you don't have those, you can always use something like this and bake your creation without it and gluing it on to the baked peacock. If you are using the screw eye, definitely go slowly so that you can make sure that you are pressing it in straight. If you press it in too crookedly, it might not be in as securely. And now we are going to add the heart shapes to our peacock tail. I'm going to move the tail out of the way so that I have room to work, and I'm going to be using my tissue cutter to cut each shape out. I always like to cut out a few extra, especially when I'm trying to make them thin, because sometimes you'll end up cutting them a little too thin and you'll end up with half of a shaving rather than the full shape. Always clean your hands off afterward because there will be a few shavings from the blade. And now we have our 5 ends. You can see that some of them are fatter than others and some are skinny. I'm going to be using this to my advantage, and I'm going to be using the skinny ones on the end where the tails are smaller. Be very gentle as you are placing these onto the tail, because if you end up putting them in a spot where you don't want them, it's very difficult to get them off without scraping them and losing a lot of clay if you press them in too hard. And once all of them are placed, you can decide whether or not you like that placement. Since one of them is a little incomplete, I'm going to take a small shaving of the same color and I'm going to doctor it. Very carefully and gently. This is also the point where you're going to want to make sure that there's no debris such as hair or other pieces of clay stuck onto your shapes. I always like to have some scrap clay nearby to clean my hands and to place the debris on. And always make sure to smooth out any ragged edges of the cane slices because sometimes that can happen. And now that you have them all in the right place, you're going to use your rolling tool and very gently press down to flatten them into the shape. You really want to be careful here not to press too hard and ruin your shape, but you do want them to be pressed firmly enough into the clay to where they are secure. Once you have all of the pieces flattened to your satisfaction, now is the point where I like to sign the back. I use this little impression tool to put my signature in, and I date it, but you can put whatever you like. Now we are going to begin on the body. The first thing I like to do is put a little impression where I'm going to place the body. It helps me to guide myself into the proper placement, and it also gives the body a little bit more room to merge with the tail. So we're going to take this small bit of pinkish red clay that I've mixed, and we're going to use it to make the body and the head. We're going to start by making a long gourd-like shape and then defining the beak. Once you have it in a shape that you like and decided which way you would like your peacock to be facing, you can place it on your work surface and flatten out the body. Now, as we place it onto the tail, we are going to be using a bit of translucent liquid Sculpey to help it stick. And we're going to place the body and gently press down. Now it's time to work on the curly crest feathers and the eyes. I'm going to be cutting a small amount of this light pink and using that so that you can see the curls a little bit better. And for the sake of clarity, I'm going to be making them a little bit bigger than on the sample. So take your piece of clay and roll it out into a thin line and then cut it in half. And then you're going to curl the ends. If you don't want to have them curly, that's fine, or if you'd like to have little dots on the end or little beads, that's totally fine as well. Now once you have those, you're going to be using another little dollop of translucent liquid Sculpey. Place a little bit on your work surface and then grab some of it with a small shaping tool and dot it where you're going to be placing the head feathers. And grab the little feathers with your shaping tool. If you have a little bit of the translucent liquid Sculpey, it will cause it to stick. Just be very gentle and try to use your shaping tool as much as possible, but you can always use your fingers if you have to. Press them down very lightly. And now for the eyes. I'm going to be grabbing another small little bit of the light pink for the eye rim, which is going to be the equivalent of the white spots on a peacock's face. And then I'm going to be pressing my dotting tool, my smallest dotting tool, into the eyes, and then taking a piece of the body color and rolling it into a small ball for the eye. I'm going to add a little bit of translucent liquid Sculpey in there to help it stick, and I'm going to place the ball into the eye socket and press down very gently. And now you have a cute Valentine pendant.